I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. Synthetic biology companies have faced a difficult few years as share prices have been battered and investment in the sector has waned. As investors and companies are readying to gather for the annual Synbio Beta conference in San Jose, May 5th through 8th, a new report from the bipartisan National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology warns that the United States is at risk of losing its leadership to China and is calling for a $15 billion investment into biotech over the next 5 years to support startups that strengthen national security. We spoke to John Cumbers, founder and CEO of Synbio Beta, about the state of synthetic biology, the policy landscape, and the upcoming Synbio Beta 2025 conference. Listeners of the Bio Report wishing to attend Synbio Beta can use the discount code TheBioReport to save on their registration at synbiobeta.com. John, thanks for joining us.
You are very welcome, Danny. Good to be back.
We're going to talk about synthetic biology, the state of the industry, and the policy environment. We like to connect with you before the annual Synbio Beta conference. This year, the agenda struck me in a few ways. In the past, you've talked about all companies needing a biotech strategy, the notion that biomanufacturing will replace traditional manufacturing. It seems, though, that the mantra among companies today is, what's your AI strategy? AI has its own track this year. How is it changing our ability to engineer biology?
That is a fantastic question, because if you think about the field of synthetic biology, which right now is coming up to being 25 years old, the field is all about a mission, and that mission is making biology easier to engineer. A lot of biology in the past 50 years of recombinant DNA technology has been about making changes to genes and genomes and trying to understand the changes that those changes have on the organism that you're trying to engineer. And that organism might be producing fuel or food or pharmaceuticals or chemicals or materials or consumer goods, whatever. Synthetic biology is not about what you're making. Synthetic biology is about the way that you are making it, and it's a movement to try to make biology easier to engineer. Now, 25 years later, is biology easy to engineer? No. Is it easier to engineer than 25 years ago? Yes. How much easier is it to engineer? Well, with things like CRISPR and things like automation, it's become easier to engineer. But are we at the stage where you could say, I am a Fortune 500 company and I have this molecule that's made from petrochemistry in my supply chain, and I want to find a more sustainable, cheaper, faster way to produce it using biology by sucking out carbon from the air or by using glucose instead of petroleum, for the biomanufacturing example? Can that company say, here is $1 million, go make me a bug to do that? No, it's still probably an order of magnitude more to make that molecule. It's probably $10 million. Maybe it's $3 million, but it's still probably how much work? A year's work, maybe 6 months' work. Compare that to being able to boot up an app on the App Store, even being able to design a circuit board, certainly being able to build a house or something like that. Well, maybe a house still takes 6 months to a year. But my point is that traditional engineering disciplines have gone through this maturation process where they've matured into a reliable, robust, affordable engineering discipline. And biotechnology has not yet done that. Why hasn't it done that? Well, a cell is a whole lot more complex than a house, and a whole lot more complex than an app, and a whole lot more complex than an airplane, which I think has about 10,000 different engineered pieces in it, which is a pretty complex thing. So now comes onto the scene this revolutionary new tool, AI. And what it allows us to do is to feed in to these large language models new libraries of DNA, of RNA, of protein sequences, and spit out new genes and genomes that the algorithm predicts are going to perform a particular function. So just like ChatGPT hoovers up all the text online and spits out a result, and just like the image generation, uh, things like DALL-E hoover up all the images and spit out a new image, the same is happening now with biology, where you've got large language models like Evo2, and we've got protein models like Elaine Jang from Princeton. She's one of our speakers. We've got RNA models like Raphael Townsend. He's one of our speakers, and Jacob Uskeritz. He's making RNA models using his company's Inceptive Bio. So you've got all these different startups and some large companies as well who are hoovering up biological information and now making predictive power and predictive algorithms to design genes and genomes. And so it takes this giant piece of, a gnarly hairball of a question, which is how do you design a gene and a genome? And it puts it through an algorithm which produces faster, better, cheaper results that can then be fed into the synthesis, and you can now make genes and genomes and test them and see whether the design that the AI algorithm came up with is better than the previous design. So for me, it's a step change in our ability to engineer biology, and I'm just super excited about what the future holds for it.
Well, where do you see us in this process of integrating AI into biotech? And at the end of the day, is this just about being faster and cheaper, or does it enable us to do things that might not otherwise be possible?
That's a good question. We know already from the last 50 years of recombinant DNA what is possible with biology. We've seen some amazing advances from the first example of recombinant DNA, which was Herb Boyer and Bob Swanson creating Genentech in the 1960s. We have seen some examples of more modern products like semaglutide and Wegovy, the weight loss drugs, which are using non-canonical amino acids and making these GLP-1 inhibitors through biological means. We have a company called Constructive Bio that's doing that in particular, and Jason Chin is giving one of our keynotes this year on that topic. We also have products like sweeteners, like stevia, molecules for making stevia. And one of the other companies that's speaking at the conference this year, Alexander Zangolini, from Zeta. It's a spin out from David Baker's lab, who won the Nobel Prize for protein folding just last year. They've got products out on the market. So does Novo Nordisk in the drug discovery space. We have another company called Zymochem that has a superabsorbent polymer, and another nylon product where Lululemon's making these yoga pants using these kinds of sustainable products. So we have examples of where biology is already having an impact in the marketplace. And so right now, we just need to get it faster, better, and cheaper. We don't need any novel kind of functions. We know that this stuff can happen, and we know that it can happen profitably in the marketplace. We just need better tools to make it so it's not $10 million, but it's $1 million. And hopefully someday it's just going to be $100,000, and then maybe $1,000. And then maybe you're able to engineer a genome just like you have a personal computer at home, and enable many different kinds of functions.
Do you still think all companies need a bio strategy? And to what extent do you think companies across industries are adopting one today?
Absolutely. Well, you've interviewed me for my book, What's Your Bio Strategy? And you've interviewed me, at least the last 4 years for Synbio Beta every year before it comes up. And what we are seeing is this adoption of biology. This year we have a fireside chat. We're actually opening the conference on May 6th with the CTO of Microsoft, Kevin Scott. And it's like, well, what is the CTO of Microsoft doing at a biotech conference, doing at a synthetic biology conference? And the answer is Microsoft has a biostrategy. They are looking at biology as this new domain where they want to invest in what's coming down the pipeline. They want to be able to gather up biological data. They want to be able to create new forms of biological data that they can collect that data in the lab and then apply their AI algorithms to it and try to understand these complex systems of biology so they can make predictive power. And Microsoft, of course, is one of the big investors in OpenAI. And this year we have people coming from OpenAI who are looking to partner with the industry and try to understand how can we use their algorithms with our data to make new advances. So Microsoft has a biostrategy. We're also seeing companies like Procter and Gamble come, and Cargill and Nestle and Unilever, and a lot of these big chemicals and consumer goods companies all looking to decarbonize their supply chain and make things with biology. So, yeah, every company, if they don't have a biostrategy now, they're at least coming to the conference, sending their tech scouts, trying to understand who in the industry can they partner with, what technologies are out there that they should be using, and how can they build a biostrategy.
It's been a difficult few years for biotech broadly, but some of the once brightest stars of synthetic biology have been particularly battered. I'm thinking here of companies like Amyris and Ginkgo Bio, among others. What do you make of that?
It has been a bloodbath in the what I'm calling the biotech winter. It has been 2 years now of high interest rates, and now we've got the latest cuts to the NIH, to the NSF, and it's really not looking good in terms of the funding climate. And so a lot of the companies that went out there who were outside of the traditional healthcare space, like Amyris, like Ginkgo, like Zymergen, they did all take a huge battering. As soon as the cost of money went up, a lot of the companies pulled back on the things like sustainable products or decarbonized supply chains. That's definitely not on the top of the list of the current administration. But you're still seeing some companies able to survive and thrive in this environment. The company that I mentioned just now, Zymerchem, I just interviewed Harshal Chokrawala on my podcast last week. And this is the guy who signed a big deal with Lululemon to focus on how they can decarbonize their yoga pants. And it's also somebody who is doing a big deal with a soon to be disclosed personal hygiene product about these super absorbent polymers, which, if you look at the landfill in the United States, the majority of it is filled up with, sorry, not the majority, but I think like 10 or 15% of our landfill is made up of adult diapers and kids' diapers. So there are companies out there that are managing to survive and thrive in this environment despite the high interest rates and the long term cost of capital.
The forecast I see for the industry, though, still seems to be rather rosy. Compounded annual growth rate forecast, something on the order of 20% a year for the next 10 years. Is there a disconnect between investors and the opportunities the sector's creating? What's the case you would make for why people should be paying more attention?
I think that this biotech winter is just going to be like the AI winter. And the AI winter, hopefully, it's not going to be as long as the AI winter, but people were getting excited and talking about AI in the 1980s, again in the 1990s, again in the 2000s. It kind of dips, ebbs and flows like all technology trends. You know, you've got the hype cycle, the trough of disillusionment, the valley of productivity. We're going through that with synthetic biology right now, and we're in one of these depressions. I believe we've come out of it and we're on the way up again. We publish, and you can find this on our website, synbiobeta.com, and in my weekly newsletter, we publish it, our annual synthetic biology investment report. We track over 10,000 transactions for the last decade. And what we can see in that report is that in 2024, there was over $12 billion invested in the synthetic biology industry. If you compare that to last year, it was about $10 billion that was invested. Go back 2 years ago and it was like $18 billion invested. But go back to 2019 and it was about $7 or $8 billion invested. So imagine that on a chart. You've got this giant rise during the pandemic. Money was flooding the system, low interest rates, zero interest rates, and everybody just diving in and having a heyday in terms of innovation and startups. Then you've seen it come crashing down after the pandemic. The supply money tightened up, and you've now, I think, hopefully found now another steady state where it's going to start rising again. So we're not going back to the $18 billion a year, but my prediction is, next year it'll be more than 12 billion, but maybe it'll be 13 or 14 billion, and then it'll be back to that steady rise which we were seeing before 2019. So the money is coming back. There are two big areas where there is money being invested right now. One of them is in pharmaceutical assets, therapeutic assets, and the other one is in AI algorithms. What you're not seeing is an investment in tools and platforms. People are pulling back on things that are not revenue generating. And that's, again, the time value of money and the high interest rates mean investors don't have patience. If they can put their money in a bank account and be getting, a 5% return guaranteed, then they are going to put a whole bunch of their money in a low risk asset like that, and not in a higher risk platform technology that has yet to prove customers and yet to prove that they can get to market and get revenue and get profitable. So again, it's just, I've been in Silicon Valley for 16 years now, and I've just been through these cycles, and we're just in one of these funks right now. But there is the money out there, and there's over 40 investors who are coming to our investor lunch that we have at the conference this year, with over $40 billion of capital under management, and we have over 80 startups who are coming to our startup luncheon. So, you know, this is a community, and people are seeing past this dip and onto the next hill. And this is Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has reinvented itself again and again and again, and that's what we're seeing. So I'm not worried about it. What I'm excited about is what's going to be next in 12 months' time. What are we going to see? Because whenever there's a cull, and we've seen a lot of layoffs, there's the new shoots of innovation, and there's a number of low cost incubators and accelerators and labs around the Bay Area that are springing up, where people are pulling together their resources, putting together a little bit of savings, and you're starting to see green shoots of new things that are innovating. And that's the fun part. That's what I love about synthetic biology. That's what I love about the Synbio beta community, is just figuring out what's next and seeing these green shoots of innovation and what's going to come.
It's always exciting to see the different applications of biology in places you wouldn't expect to see it, from dyes and inks to new materials for everything from snowboards to shoes. But while therapeutic developers have long been applying synthetic biology in interesting ways, it seems they have a bigger present at this year's conference. Is that my imagination, or does it reflect the market realities you were just talking about of where the greatest traction is these days?
It definitely reflects the market reality of where the greatest traction is, and it reflects the reality of where a lot of our sponsors want to do business. As I said, people are looking for places to bring in profit, to make revenue. And so you're seeing, some of the top sessions that we're seeing right now is the large pharma companies that are coming to the conference and looking to partner with these small technology platforms and with these AI companies. We have a session on universal immunity where Jake Glanville is talking about Centivax's universal vaccine. We have the head of biologics AI, Andrew Phillips from Sanofi. We have the VP of R&D at Amgen coming, Alan Russell. And we have Clayton Rabideau and Peyton Greenside, who are the CEOs of some of the AI companies that are looking to partner and are partnering with biopharma companies. So that's definitely where we've gone in terms of the partnerships that are forming. And we have nearly all of the top 10 big pharmas who are coming, including Ekaten Korovitz from Johnson & Johnson, Jeremy Sauer from Pfizer, Marisa Jones from Genentech. So we're definitely catering to the audience, which is there's money to be made still in therapeutic applications of biology, and these folks are the ones who are coming to the event.
So I think many of us expected the industrial and agricultural applications of synthetic biology to be further along than they are today from a commercial point of view. Where do you see these applications in terms of their readiness for the market?
That's a great question. If you look at some of the things outside of pharma, particularly around planetary health, which is another one of our top themes this year, you can see companies like Pivot Bio, which are going to be attending the event. They have a great engineered microbe that is out there in field trials right now. And I should back this up. This isn't a GMO, but it's a gene edited microbe, and it is out there and it's producing a non chemically synthesized crop fertilizer. So it's being used in row crops all around the country now, removing the need for adding chemical nitrogen to the soil, removing the big impact that you get from the Haber Bosch process, which is incredibly carbon intensive and energy intensive, and reducing the impact that you have of the nitrous oxide that goes up in the atmosphere when you add chemical fertilizers to it. So there's definitely a lot of exciting stuff around the agricultural field. We also have a ton at the intersection of engineering and food. We have the CEO of Notco. That's a company that Jeff Bezos fund has invested in. Matthias Matschnuck is coming um, from Chile. He's the founder of that company. Patrick Brown is coming back to Synbio Beta. He's obviously the founder of Impossible Foods, which you can still go out and buy their delicious burger at Burger King. And then we also have Rodrigo Amaro, who is the director of a new Bezos food center at Imperial College London. So you just have a lot of places where planetary health, whether it's in food or ag or chemicals or materials, are now starting to get traction. And yeah, it's been a brutal time for anybody in those industries, but the tide has gone out. You can see who has no clothes on, and the ones that have got clothes on are coming to the conference and talking about what they're doing.
Well, what have been the biggest obstacles to getting broad commercial success for these companies? Is it R&D costs, scalability, regulation, capital constraints, or something else?
I like to joke, and I'm not sure who said this joke first, but you have in biology genomics and transcriptomics, and you have now multi-omics, but there's really only one omics that matters in biology, at least from a business point of view, and that is economics. And so the thing that is making food and chemicals and materials and consumer goods uncompetitive against fossil fuel derived products is the fact that we are not taking into account the external cost of sucking up oil from the ground and converting it into something else, or burning coal and the coal or natural gas and the carbon that it is emitting. So I've been banging on about this for at least 10 years, which is that if we want biotechnology to succeed and we want biomanufacturing to succeed, then we have to look at the external costs of the alternative from the petrochemical industry and from the fossil fuel industry, because it's always going to be cheaper to suck something up out of the ground and turn it into something else than to suck something out of the air and turn it into something else through biotechnology. And until we address the core of that, many of these companies are going to be unprofitable and uneconomic. I think California is doing a good job with its carbon tax. I think Europe is doing a great job with its carbon tax. China is investing like gangbusters in this, and they have the manufacturing supply chain to put these things into their products. Um, and I'll just read you a text message that I got from a friend of mine in China recently. And obviously, with the trade war gearing up, it's a tough time. And so, this particular friend of mine, I'm not going to name him, but he was going to be coming to the conference, and then he said, "Oh, I can't come now. Things are weird between the U.S. and China." But um, he said, there's a lot happening here in China. The industry is actively seeking truly entrepreneurial leaders to consolidate the entire value chain and drive synbio industrialization from an emerging field to maturity. And that, I think, is the thing to be extremely worried about, is that the US, that has pioneered a lot of this work, is really now about to get eaten by what's going on in China if we don't do something around investing in our own infrastructure and making the economics work out. And that's what I think we probably need to look at that, because if not, in 10 years' time, we're not going to have an industry, and China's gonna dominate it.
Well, we are at the start of a new administration in Washington. It set the tone by making sharp cuts to our science agencies and research spending. How concerned are you about the future of biotechnology industry broadly and our national economic competitiveness within the industry, particularly at a time when China, as you note, has been making these advances as a source of biotech innovation?
I have been writing about this. I put in a piece in Forbes on China and our US competitiveness with Forbes. I've taken startups to the last three White Houses: Obama, Trump, Biden. And I was just in DC on Friday at a reception where Senator Todd Young from Indiana was speaking. And Todd Young is a Republican senator from Indiana, and he chairs now this commission on emerging National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology. And just last week, they put out a 60-page report ringing the fire alarm on exactly this issue about bioeconomy, biomanufacturing, and competitiveness with China. And the report is absolutely fantastic. I encourage you to read it. I was actually moderating a fireside chat with Jason Kelly at the event last week in DC. Eric Schmidt spoke at the event about the need to drive this. Senator Alex Padilla from California spoke about it. Congressman Ro Khanna from California spoke about it. It's a bipartisan issue. Both the Republicans and the Democrats are supporting this, and they called for a $15 billion investment, particularly around national security and to make the U.S. more competitive with its biomanufacturing industry against China. So people at the right levels know that this is a threat. They know that China is investing. They know that the US and to some extent Europe is going to be on the back foot if we don't do something about it. So I hope that the administration is listening. They have a fantastic person running OSTP. His name is Michael Kratsios. He hosted a bioeconomy summit that I was at during the first Trump administration. I really hope that he's going to do the same in this administration. And I've also invited him out to Synbio Beta to speak to the folks in our industry and to project what his vision is for the future of biomanufacturing in the US. What we've seen over the last 2 weeks, maybe a month ago, was the rescinding of the previous biomanufacturing executive order by the Biden administration, which doesn't bode well. I think this is a bipartisan issue, and what we need is a unified front about a national strategy that is going to compete effectively globally on biomanufacturing. It doesn't look good, the cuts to NIH and NSF, but it but there are some glimmers on in the future what might be possible. I think the deregulation aspect of this should be good. It's very expensive to get regulatory approval for some of these products. It's overly burdensome to get regulatory approval for some of these products, which we've been using now for 20, 30 years, and we know that they're safe. So I think there's going to be some good that comes from it, but I think everybody is very nervous about the core of our R&D ecosystem, the cuts to the universities, the cuts to the agencies, and the high interest rates. If we don't do something to pull us out of this, then I think we will definitely have missed the boat here. So I think we're on a knife edge right now. It's 50-50 is my view about whether we lean into this and make the right decisions and investments and motivate the engine of innovation, which America has been so amazingly good at. Or we go into a nosedive and we kill the golden goose that has made both the industry so profitable over the last few years, but also the number of jobs that are created in this country by biotechnology and the education and infrastructure investments that we've done. It's not the time to let the foot off the gas now. If there are certain industries that I'm happy that don't need the subsidies, but and they don't need the support. Biomanufacturing, biotechnology is a golden goose right now, and we'd be very foolish to miss that opportunity to double down and reinvest in it.
From a policy perspective, are there particular steps you'd like to see taken?
I am actually working on something that was in the report from the National Security Commission on Emerging Biotechnology, who, by the way, are going to be coming out to the conference. There's a session on Thursday, May the 8th at the conference where people are going to be members of the commission are going to be coming out and talking about the report, and you'll be able to meet with them. We've got the partnering app if people want to reach out and give input to that national commission. The thing that I'm most excited about in that report is the area of bioliteracy. And this is actually looking at how many people in the US could tell you how does a gene relate to a protein? Do we understand what's going on in biology. And if we don't understand it, how can we create a growth industry around it? Natalie Caldell is a good friend of mine. She runs something called BioBuilder, which is doing education for high school students. I recently started an animation studio called the Biological Enlightenment Studio, and we are creating a 25-minute feature-length animation all about genes and proteins using kind of Pixar-style animation to teach kids what's going on inside of a cell. So the thing that I see as a big growth potential on a policy front is supporting bioliteracy initiatives and being able to create a zeitgeist, a grassroots movement that gets everybody buzzing about biotechnology. So there's a number of recommendations in the report that I'll let you read, but the one that I'm most passionate about is creating this giant movement to make biology as popular as going to the moon was, and that's what I think is needed. It's a real moonshot to rethink our whole culture around one that's built with biology.
The Synbio Beta Conference runs at the San Jose Convention Center May 5th through 8th. To find additional information and to register, go to synbiobeta.com. John, anything from this year's agenda you'd want to highlight or that you'd suggest people look for?
If people are excited about aging and longevity, then we have a whole track dedicated to that. This year we have the longevity influencer Brian Johnson is going to be speaking. We also have Peter Diamandis talking about his latest book, The Longevity Guide. And we have people who are doing molecular reprogramming like Joe Betts-LaCroix, people from Altos Labs, people from Genevity. So if you're interested in aging, then that's going to be a hot topic. If you're interested in neurotech, then we have people like Jean Loring from Scripps and Aspen Neuroscience, who is doing autologous stem cell therapy by putting in re-injecting stem cells into the brain. We have John Hibbert from ARPA-H. We have Mike Corris from the DARPA BTO. We have Max Hodak from Science, who used to be the CEO of Neuralink, Ed Boyden from MIT. So we just really have a whole host of really amazing sessions all about the future of human health and longevity. And I don't know about you, but I'm just very passionate about the potential to live longer. And that's one area that I'm super excited about. The other one is AI and bio. I mentioned the EVO paper that we had before, and we have Brian He from Stanford, who is one of the authors of the EVO2 model. We also have folks coming from the RNA world, engineering systems and creating RNA models. So I'm very excited about that. And then just all the folks from the investment community who are going to be speaking. Krish Ramadurai from AIX Ventures is going to be speaking. My good friend Rohan Ganesh from Obvious Partners is going to be speaking. So we just have a lot of investment, a lot of early stage startup, a lot of AI, a lot of longevity. And above all, we have a passionate community of biogeeks who want to make the world a better place and do really good things with biology.
John Cumbers, founder and CEO of Synbio Beta. John, thanks as always.
Danny, I can't wait to see you in person at the event. And thank you as always for having me on the podcast and letting me geek out with you about biology. I love this stuff.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.